everybody. This is Virginia Builder coming to you for the DeKalb County Library System. And I thought, oh, we should, pearls are coming back in style, but you know what? I think I'm wrong. I don't think they ever go out of style. So I thought we would do something really pretty with some pearls, well, some pearl-esque beads, and make a bracelet. I did a live class where we did a dangle bracelet, something I don't do a lot of, but they're really pretty. My sister loves them, and I've been noticing those coming back into style in a big way. So I thought, well, let's just do a nice bracelet. We did, I think we used, oh, it was multicultural. So we used a mix of beads from all over the world. And it was really a lot of fun and really colorful and beautiful. And somebody said, oh, this is the best thing we've ever done. And I thought, really? Okay, so I thought we would make a pearl dangle bracelet with a little twist. We'd make it a little bit more intricate than we did in the classroom. We're going to take two chains and link them together and add the dangles to those two chains that are side by side. And you'll see what I mean when we get ready to do it. So very, very basic materials. You just need chain, wire, two kinds of wire because we're going to make our own clasp. So we need a 24 gauge wire for the wrapping part because we're going to be making wrapped loops to add our dangles. You'll need your regular tools, your round nose pliers. The barrels are round on, but all the way around. They taper smaller towards the tip. Your square nose or chain nose pliers are slightly rounded on the outside and square on the inside. And if you buy them in the store, make sure you get the kind that doesn't have the grips on them so that it doesn't chew up your wire. And we'll need a cutter, just a basic wire cutter. And we'll need a ruler to measure everything out. That's it. And we're going to be using 20 gauge wire to make a clasp later. We're going to make a nice beaded clasp. And of course, you're going to need a selection of pearls. I'm using 2 colors. You can use 2 or 3 colors. Those of you who get kits, you'll have 2 or 3 colors to work with. And jump rings. That's it. That's all we need for this particular project. So let's get started. Okay, so what we need is a length of chain, and you're going to need the chain to be the circumference of your wrist times 2. So you don't have to cut them yet. We'll cut it when we get ready to fit it to our arm after we've linked everything together. But just if your arm is 8 inches, get 16 inches and just fold it in half like this. So we have our wire, and you can use pretty much any size wire you want. It's entirely up to you. I started to use a bigger wire like I used in the classroom, which is really a lot bigger than this one. But because we're doubling it up, I thought that might be a bit much, but it actually is very pretty if you double it. But I decided to go with this chain, which is 3 by 4. The links are 3 by 4, 4 by 5, 5 by 6. It's entirely up to you what size you want your links, your individual links to be. So what we're going to do is link these 2 chains together with jump rings, and then we're going to add our dangle beads. So the first thing I'm going to do is link my chain. So I'm going to grab a couple of jump rings. And they don't have to be huge. I'm using a slightly larger size so that you can see what I'm doing, because if I used a much smaller size, you wouldn't be able to see the intricate linking that I need to do. So this is a little bit larger. I would go with, well, if you're buying them in the craft store, you're going to have to get what they have. But 5 millimeter jump rings would be good. For 3 by 4, just as long as the jump rings can fit 2 lengths of your wire and just hold it together. That's all you need to worry about. Okay, so I've got my jump ring, and what I'm going to do, excuse me, is find my little opening, and then I'm going to open my jump ring up and link it to the chain. Now, there's several ways that you can open a jump ring. Depending on the size of your jump ring, you can just use your pliers to hold one side and then push down on the other side with your thumb, and that opens it right up. You never want to pull the ring tips apart because it's almost impossible to push them back together the way you want them to be and to keep your round shape. So we don't want to do that. So now what I want to do is, change my glasses for my better ones. Okay, what I want to do now is link my chain together, and I'm going to start in the center. So I'm just going to grab one link of my chain, and I'm leaving it laying down here so that you can kind of see better. I prefer to hold it in my hands. You can hold it in your hands, but if I hold it in my hands, my fingers are going to be blocking everything that I do. So what I want to do is put one side of my jump ring, the tip of my jump ring down one of my links. Turn this around this way. There we go. Put it through one of my links. So much easier if I have it in my hand. And then up through the link that's across from it. Just going to place it in there with my finger. See what I mean? My fingers block off what I'm doing. But now I've got one link from each side of my chain in my jump ring. And I just need to close that up. And make sure that my ends are flush together. No gaps, no openings. So there we go. I've linked one little piece of my chain. So then I'm going to move down about a ½ inch to an inch to the left or the right to link down to link another piece of my chain. Now, how far apart you make them is depends on the how. I can't talk today. I can't. The words are hard. How far apart I put my links, or I link my chain, will determine how many beads I can put on. I'm going to go about a ½ inch apart, and you can make it an inch apart, but that will determine how full your bracelet is of dangles, because your dangles are going to go to the right and the left of where your bracelet is attached. You don't, well, I'll explain that later. But let's go ahead and open up another jump ring here. There we go. And I'm going to go down about ½ inch. I'm going to eyeball it. It does not have to be exactly exact, but if you want to measure, you can. You can either count your links or you can just measure with a ruler. So I'm going to go down about ½ inch, grab another link, move this out of my way. I'm going to grab another link of my chain. I'm going to go down on one side and up through the other side. And I want to make sure that there's not a gap in between. And when I say gap, I mean I don't want it to swoop. So I want to make sure that it's nice and straight. Pick up that other link on the other side. That's right across from this one. Oh, I had to tell you guys, I think I'm going to have to pick it up. Trying to do this on camera can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. Okay, let's do that again. Okay. Got my jump ring, pick a link, slide it down through one link on one side. This is gonna be fun. This is really not that hard. It really isn't. Oh, and trying to hold it with my fingers might be a challenge too, because then you can't see what I'm doing. That's why I'm using my pliers. All right, let's do this again. Down through one link on one side. Okay, and then pick up the other link on the other side. Come on. Oh, come on. You're embarrassing me on camera. Down on one side. And up on the other. Sure. And make sure you go through the link. There we go. So I've caught it. Let me check. Make sure it's nice and flat. Yes. And again, you can count your links. I'm going to close this up and then check it to make sure there's not a swoop in between. Yes, very nice. Now I'm going to go ahead and make sure my jump ring is nicely closed. Here we go. Okay, so I have two places that my bracelet chain is linked, right here and right here. So now I'm going to continue to do that down the chain. But before I go any further with this part of it, I'm going to show you how to attach your beads, because this up, your beads are going to attach. There's one of my jump rings. Your beads are going to attach on each side of your jump ring. So I'm going to put a bead on one side on one half of the chain, and on the other side on the other half of the chain. So to the right on one side and to the left on the other side, right beside where the jump ring is holding the chains together. And the reason you do that is because if I put a bead right down here in the middle where it's not linked, it will cause a gap like that. And we don't really want that. I mean, maybe you do, your artistic preference, but I wanted to make sure that it just looks like two chains, nice and neatly placed together with no gaps. All right. So now I'm going to attach a bead, a pearl on this side and this side of my jump ring, and then this side and this side and my other jump ring. And you'll see what I mean in a moment. So let me grab a bead here. So I've got this pretty light, this is a very light pink, but under the cameras, it looks all washed out. It looks like it's white. So all I need to wrap this is about 3 inches of wire, but it's much easier if you give yourself a long length of wire and do several of them. There's a little ant on my mat. Go away, ant. Go, go, go. You're not supposed to be in this video. So I'm going to use a long, about 10, 12 inches and wrap each one, because I find that's easier than cutting little pieces and then trying to wrap little tiny tails of wire, especially when you're dealing with several different components at the same time. It's easier to work with a larger length of wire. So I'm going to cut off a length of wire here. Again, just for the purposes of, how much wire will I need? About 3 inches per bead. This is a small bead. I'm using two sizes. I'm using 6 and 8 or 6 and 10. I'm not sure which one, but I measured for the larger bead. The larger bead takes about 3 inches of wire to wrap, so the smaller bead will take less. But if you allow for 3 inches, you will definitely have enough. Okay, so I'm going to take my wire. I'm going to put my little bead on, my little pearl on. I'm going to give myself about an inch from one end, and I'm going to bend that wire over my pearl. I'm just going to bring the wire up the side of my pearl like that. I'm just going to cross it over the top of my bead and cross over the long wire like so. Then I'm just going to wrap that little tail around the longer wire. And I just need to do that once. And I find it easiest to hold this little wire that's going up the side along with your bead to keep everything from shifting. So I'm going to wrap that around one time. And this is very malleable wire, so you shouldn't have any trouble wrapping a tail this small. But if you do, grab your pliers and use them to wrap it around. Just make sure you wrap it nice and close to the top of your bead. And once I have my single wrap, I can cut that little tail off nice and close and then push down the end so that it won't snag on anything. And I just go around in the direction of the curve, the way I was going. Here we go. And now I'm going to make a loop on the top that I'm going to attach to my chain. So I'm going to bend my wire. I'm bending it to the side. There's my little wire going down one side of my bead. And I want that to show for me because I want that little contrast. So I'm bending it to the side. There's my wire that's going down the bead. And I'm bending my wire to the side instead of the front or the back. Then I'm going to slide my wire down my pliers just about a quarter of the way. It doesn't need to be a huge loop, just enough to link to your chain. Now, if you have a bigger chain, you're going to need a bigger loop. But for the purposes of the ones that we have in our kits, we just need to go about a quarter of the way down our pliers and make a loop. I'm going to bring that wire over the top of my pliers and down the side of my bead, like so. Then reposition my pliers and bring the wire the rest of the way between my pliers and my bead so that I have a loop. See if I can get this a little clearer. Focus, 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 focus. You know what? I'm going to bring it down. See if I can get it to focus better. Hold on. I know we can focus better than that. That's just one big blur. Sometimes I think it's the more things that are around it. It's trying to focus on everything and focusing on nothing. There we go. I'm going to bring that down even closer so it doesn't have, it's not competing with everything on the mat. Get that. All right, guys. I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. Oh, it's really struggling. Don't you just love dead air? Okay. Okay, there we go. There we go. Ah, now that I have my loop, I'm going to wrap this long tail of wire around just to close it off. And you can wrap it around as many times as you want. I just want to give it a little tiny cap on the top of my bead. I have to remember where my camera is. There we go. So now I have a little cap on top of my bead. There. Okay, there we go. So now I'm going to cut the wire off, cut that tail off, and push down that little tip so it's not ready to catch on anything. There we go. Now, I just showed you how to make a wrapped loop, but what did I not do? I did not attach it to my chain. Excuse me. Now, if I was using jump rings to attach it to the chain, this would be perfectly fine. But we're not using jump rings to attach it. We're going to attach it directly. So now I need to show you again. All right, grab another bead. At least you got to learn how to make a wrapped loop. I'm going to use that as my save. Okay, so I'm going to slide on my bead, bend it about an inch from the tip, and wrap that around the side of my pearl, like so. Cross it over the bead and the other wire, and then wrap that around that long stem, right at the top of the bead. Okay, and then I'm going to cut off that tail and get rid of that little tip and push that little end down so it will not snag on anything. There we go. Then I'm going to bend my wire to the side, make my little loop, slide my wire down about a quarter of the way down my pliers because I don't need a huge link, a huge loop. I just want enough to link it to my chain. Bring that wire over the top of my pliers and down the side where my bead is. Hold on to my bead, open up my pliers, reposition them, and then bring the wire in between the bead and the pliers. And from here, I need to stop so I can connect it to my chain. So what I want to do is connect it on one side of my jump ring. So here is my jump ring, right there. Can you see that? Here's my jump ring. I'm going to attach my pearl to the right or the left of my jump ring, to the loop that's closest to my jump ring. If you can put it in the loop where the jump ring is, great. If not, just go to the link that's closest to the jump ring. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to slide that in, that loop. I'm going to the right side of my jump ring for the first one. Slide that in there. And make sure you put that loop, the chain loop, inside the wire loop. So slide that in until it's inside my wire loop, just like that. Then I'm going to grab my pliers. Now for this, because this is very small space, I'm going to use my round pliers. Now all you have to do is hold the face of your loop, just the flat part of your loop, with your pliers. You don't need to squeeze. No squeezing required, because if you do, you're going to bend up your little loop, and you don't want that. So now I'm just going to wrap my wire around the stem several times, as many times as you would like, just to close off my loop. Then I'm going to cut the excess. Cut that off. And then push down that little tip so it won't snag on anything. Push that right down against the other wire, the other wraps. And there is my first little dangle. Now my next little dangle is going to go on the other chain on the other side of my jump ring. There's my jump ring. There's my first dangle. My other dangle is going to go right over here. So it's going to be at a little angle. And what I'm doing is putting a small one on one side and a large one on the other side. That does not have to be your design. It's what I'm doing because that's what I want to do. That's all. No big deal. You can put all of your, you can put all on one side or alternate them. It's up to you. It's your design. Okay, so I've given myself an inch of wire. I'm going to bring that wire up the side of my bead, cross it over the top of my bead, and cross it over the other wire, and wrap it around the top of my bead one time. And again, if it's too short, this is very, very, very thin wire, and it's easy to wrap. So all I really need to do is push it around here. But if for some reason it bothers you to have to do that, use your pliers to bring it around. Whatever works for you is fine. Got my little one wrap. Cut off that little tail. Rid of that little end. And let's push that tip down. Just like we always do. Okay, bend my wire to the side. Slide my wire down about a quarter of the way down my pliers. Bring the wire over the top of my pliers and down the side where my bead is. Hold on to my bead, open up my pliers, reposition them, and bring that wire under the pliers right between the loop and the bead to form my loop. Looking a little blurry. There we go. It's too close. It says you're too close. I can't focus. All right. I'm going to switch to my other pliers. Hold on to my little loop. And what am I not going to do right now? I'm not going to wrap. Why? Because I need to attach it. I need to attach it to my chain. Man, am I glad I caught myself. That would have been humiliating. So here's my little jump ring. I'm going to put it on the other side of my jump ring. This one's on this side of the chain. This one's going on this side of the chain. Slide that in there in the little loop. And then slide that chain loop inside the wire loop. Get in there. There we go. check and make sure it's there. Yes, it is. Grab my round nose pliers, hold on to the face of my loop, and wrap the wire around till we're nice and closed. I'm going to make a little cat because I have a little wire left. May as well use it to make something pretty. I'm just going to keep wrapping until I don't have any wire left. Just because I can. Okay, let's push that little tip down. Here we go, focus. Push that down. And here's my second little, oh, come on. Here's my second bead. There we go. So I got one side, one on the other side, and I'm going to keep going with that. Oh. So here's my second jump ring, my next jump ring right over here. I'm going to put this big pink one here on the right side of my jump ring and my little pink one on the opposite side. You'll see where I'm going with this. So it's going to be kind of staggered. So I've got light pink and the dark pink. And then I'm going to put another little attachment there, light pink, dark pink, and that's how I'm going with mine. So I'm going to go ahead and attach more of my dangles. I'm going to do another one next to this ring. Then I'm going to add another ring and another ring and another ring and another dangle until I have my whole bracelet filled with rings that are attaching my chain and with dangles. And I will be right back and we'll see where we need to go from there. Be right back. Okay, now all of my little beads are attached and it's time to make my clasp. First of all, I want to finish off my ends. So what you want to do is try it on your arm, make sure that it fits you, and then we're going to add jump rings on either end to hook the chains together. I put the jump rings on one side, and I used 2 jump rings just for the sake of security. So I have 2 jump rings on one end holding the 2 links of my chain together. And I'm going to put jump rings on the other end. For the sake of time, I went ahead and put them on that side, and I will go ahead and put them on this side to link these chains together, the chain ends. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Actually, I'm going to do that last. Yeah, because we're going to make our clasp so we can attach it at the same time. So I'm going to push that out of the way. I'm going to grab my 20 gauge wire and I'm going to do beaded clasps just because I like them. I think they make everything look so much prettier when you have a beaded clasp. So I'm going to take 2, because of the length of my bracelet, if I want to use, I'm using 2 of the smaller beads because I don't need that much more expansion on my bracelet and I don't want it to be too big. So I'm going to take 2 of my beads to make my hook and my loop for my clasp. So for that, I need 20 gauge wire. Go ahead and make the hook first. And for the hook, I need about 5 inches of wire. Might be a little too much, but that's a good length. And that depends on how big you want your hook to be. I don't need too big a hook because my bracelet is pretty much fitting, so I don't want to make it too big. So I've got 5 inches of wire here. I'm going to go down here to the end, and I'm going to bend my wire back about 1 inch from the tip. Get up here where you can really see. I'm going to bend it back 1 inch from the tip. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers and slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way down my pliers, just to be consistent with the loops that I made for my dangles. Doesn't need to be huge, just big enough to go through those jump rings. And I'm going to bring the wire across and over the top of my pliers and down the side, like so. Then I'm going to reposition my pliers, clamp back down, and bring that short tail of wire under the pliers, like that, so that I have a loop. Then I'm going to switch to my square pliers and wrap that loop closed. So I use these pliers as a guide. I wrap it as close as I can get to my square pliers and just use that as a way to keep from creeping up the wire with my wrap. It's a short tail. I only need 1 wrap, 1 full wrap around, but if you want to use all of your wire, that's entirely up to you. Nice and clean around my stem. Push those little rings together, clip off the end that I don't need. Get rid of that tail and push down that little tip. Yeah, sure it's not sticking out. There. And now I'm going to slide a bead on. Now I've done these beaded clasps before. I'm doing this one a little bit different. I'm just showing you another way to make a beaded clasp. It's going to look the same as the others. It's just a different way to approach it. So I've slid my bead down onto my wire. I need about 1 inch of wire to make my little hook. So I'm gonna, you can measure it or eyeball it, measure 1 inch, bend the wire over to the side, and see how I have way too much wire. I used 5 inches, 4 inches would have been plenty, but that's okay. Okay, I'm going to bend my wire ends together. Just bend those strands nice and close. And when you can't bend it anymore with your fingers, just go ahead and switch to your pliers and squeeze those together. You just want them side by side. There we go. Then I'm going to come down here to the bottom, just above my bead, give myself just the tiniest little bit of space, maybe a 1/16 of an inch of space above my bead. I'm going to bend my wire up, like so. See, and I have just that little tiny bit of space. My 2 wires are side by side. I'm going to grab my square pliers. I like to go down to the middle of my pliers or closer to the back because I have a better grip. I'm going to be wrapping, and if I try to do it on my tip, this is going to keep shifting around. But if you go back here where you have a better grip without having to hold it too tight, it's much easier to wrap. And now I'm going to wrap that short tail around my long wire. Let's wrap that around until I fill in that space. There we go. Then I think I'm going to go ahead, put a little, I have enough wire here that I think I'm going to do exactly what I did on these beads. I may as well match it. I'm going to bring this little tail down and wrap it above the loop. So now I have a matching beaded hook. Isn't that nice? Didn't need to waste that wire at all. I love it. Okay, so let's just cut off that little end that I don't need. And push that little tip down. Nice. So now I'm going to go to my this part that's going to end up being my hook. The two wires, pieces of my wire that are side by side. I'm going to bend that back. Now make sure that these are side by side and not bunched up on each other. I'm going to give that a little bit of a bend, like so. So now it's leaning back a little bit. Then I'm going to go down here to the tip. Out. I'm going to go down here to the tip, and I'm going to bend that back in the same direction. I'm just going to give it a little bend, just like that. Then I'm going to grab my round nose pliers, and just under where I bent it, I'm going to go back all the way to the back of my pliers, and I'm going to rotate my plier hand just a little bit and stop. Then I'm going to open, reposition my pliers, rotate again, open, reposition, and I'm going to keep doing that until my tip hits my bead. And there's my little shepherd's hook. Isn't that the cutest thing ever? I love it. There's my hook. Let's make the loop. So now for the loop, I need about 3 inches of wire. Let me go ahead and give myself 4. And that way I can do this little cutesy little wrap down the side. So I give myself 4 inches of wire, and I'm just eyeballing it. Yeah, I can measure. Oh, look at that. Just under 4 inches. It's about 3 3/4. Same thing. Inch from the tip, bend the wire back, make a loop, slide my wire down about 1/4 of the way down my pliers, and bring the wire. Oops, let's get over here in the center somewhere. There we go. Do that so I don't have anything competing. Okay, slide my wire about 1/4 of the way down my pliers. Okay, bring that wire over the top of the pliers and down the side, like so. Open my pliers, reposition them, and bring the wire the rest of the way under my pliers. Just like that. And now I have my loop. Grab my square pliers, wrap my loop around 1 time, 1.5 times. If you want to use up all your wire, please do. It's entirely up to you. Okay. And clip that off. Get rid of that little tip. push down that little end. Still feel it. Let's push it down a little more. There we go. And let's put my bead on. Yeah. Oh, let me push that down a little bit more. I can see where my wire is sticking up, so my bead didn't want to rest on it very easily. So let's push that down. This is why I only give it one wrap, so that my bead will settle nicely. Okay, there we go. Much better. Still a little. Oh, I see what I did. See how my wire is wrapping up the side of my stem? What I want to do is make sure that's not climbing. So I'm going to squeeze that down. So that the rings are nice and close together. Because right now they're just kind of climbing up the side of my wire. And I don't want that. Now let's put my bead on. Go down there. That's better. No, I know what it is. My wire's bent. My wire has a little bend in it. I am really laboring over this, aren't I? I'm being very persnickety today. Pearls. My pearls look good. Okay, slide that on. There we go. Much better. Now I can make my other loop that the hook's going to go through. So I'm going to bend my wire off to the side again. This time I'm going to go all the way to the back of my pliers because it has to be a big enough hole for my little shepherd's hook to link into. So I'm going to go all the way to the back of my pliers, rest my pliers against the bead, bring that wire over the top of my pliers and around to the other side where the bead is, and stop. Then I'm going to hold on to my bead, open my pliers up, reposition them, clamp back down, and bring that wire the rest of the way under my pliers so that I have a nice sized loop. And that is what my shepherd's hook will go through. Yeah. Grab my flat pliers, hold on to the face, and wrap between the loop and the bead until I get to the bead. And then I'm going to do exactly what I did with my hook and wrap it down the side of my bead like so. So I have just a little bit of a decoration. Then I'm going to wrap that tail around the other side of my bead between the loop and my bead. And I just need one full wrap. You want to do more? That's up to you. One full wrap will do it. Just enough to secure my loop. Flip off that tail, push down that end. There go, nothing's sticking out, nothing's gonna poke me. And there's my clasp. I feel something poking over here. Could have done a better job. If you ever feel that, just go back in and make your corrections. There we go. So there's my hook. There's my loop. I like mine nice and tight. There we go. So there's my wrapped clasp. So let's attach. So I'm going to go to the end of my bracelet, find my two ends. Again, you want to make sure you measure your arm, cut it off where you need to cut it. And then I'm going to add my hooks, my jump rings, to my last loops that I need to attach together. Okay, I've already opened these. Grab my open jump ring, slide it into one of my loops. Come on. Okay, there we go. Slide it into one of my loops. Spoke too soon. And slide it into the other loop. I dropped it. Come back here. There we go. Do I have them both? I do believe I do. There we go. Both of my loops are in there. And let's close up my little jump ring. Let's add the second one, just because I like to. If you don't want to use two jump rings, don't use two jump rings. It's not necessary. I just like it. But before I add the second one, I'm going to go ahead and add my clasp to reopen that. Add one half of my clasp. I'm going to go ahead and put the hook on, close it back up. Then grab the other jump ring. Slide that through those two loops. Okay, there's one loop and two loops. Make sure you go through both of them and go back through your clasp. This is the hook side of my clasp. Let's go back through. Make sure you don't catch that other jump ring in. You just want to hook it through your clasp and your chain. Close it up. Make sure that the ends are nice and flush. And there we have one side. And now I'm going to add my loop to the other side. I already have my jump rings on. So I just need to open one up. Find a little opening. Oops, I'm back here. Here's the end. There it is. Okay. Find my little jump rings. Find the end of the jump rings. I hope you can see what I'm doing all the way over there. Okay, where's the end? There it is. Let's open that up. Oh, the end of the day. What can I say? Oh, now I need to find it again. Where is the end? Okay. Oh, let's do this again. This is why it's better to just add the jump rings at the same time that you add the clasp instead of trying to do it one at a time. I thought I was saving time and I'm not. All right. Slide my clasp on. Really, Virginia, really? All right. For those of you watching, do not be afraid. It's really not this hard. It's just late at night and I'm tired. I tried to do this during the day when the sun was out and my camera wouldn't cooperate. So I did not want to give up on the day. And I decided to go ahead and do it tonight if it was clear enough in my camera. And it is. But now I'm tired and it's not working for me. Here we go. Here's my little end. Slide my little clasp on. Please go on. Please, please go on. Here we go. Slide that on. Oops, wrong one. The small side goes into the loop, but the large side is going to be where the shepherd's hook clasps. What is that? Up. Terrible. This is terrible. You're never going to watch another tutorial of mine again. I have made so many boo-boos on this. Okay, let's do this again. And what I think I'm going to do is simply take these off and put them back on because having them on the chain is causing me all kinds of grief. Here's my little opening. We're going to try it one more time. It's my little opening. Open it up. Slide on my... Okay, there we go. It actually worked this time just because I was about to give up. Never give up. Okay, now I need to do the second jump ring just because I'm anal like that and I like security of it. Okay, so let's open that one up. I also like the look of it. I think it makes it look less like a function and more like part of the design. Okay, got that on there. Close it up. Make sure everything's hanging properly. It is. There we go. My hook and my clasp are complete. And there's my bracelet. There it is. There is our pearlesque bracelet. Now, when you put it on, of course, all of these are going to fall to one side like that. But when you're wearing it, they'll flip around like this. It'll look really neat. I know, because I've worn it. I already had this made. What can I say? I made one and showed it to my sister. She claimed it, of course. She always claims them. But this is our little bracelet. And it's all in how you place your pearls. You can put them all one color, one size. You can do two colors, two sizes. You can do one color, two sizes. You can do 5 colors, whatever strikes your fancy. That's what will make this uniquely yours. But that, ladies and gentlemen, and everybody out there, is our bracelet, our nice little pearl dangle bracelet that you can wear any time of the year. Yeah, I'm going to put it on, see what it looks like. There it is. There's my little bracelet. Isn't that cute? I love it. And I love having this wrapped clasp. I like things to match. So there it is. There's my little bracelet. Oh, I love it. I really do. And again, you can put more of these in there if you want to. You can fill this in as much as you want and make it any way you want. And the fun part about a dangle bracelet is you can add to it. You can add more to it later if you want to add more than pearls. If you want to put some crystals in there later, just to fill in some of the the spaces, you can do that. It's entirely up to you how you. There's my little bracelet, or my sister's. Yeah. There's our bracelet for the day. I hope you enjoyed this. It's a very, very simple project. You're just adding dangles to a chain. The only thing that we did that was a little bit different was made a double chain and linked them together. And again, you can make a bigger double chain if you want to. It just depends on the look that you're going for. You can even make it a triple chain. I don't see why you can't. As long as you link those little chains together, you can make it any way you want. But that is really cute. That is really cute. I really like that. So I'm glad we did this. I never would have thought of it. I'm not, now I haven't done too many dangles. I have another plan, another idea of a dangle bracelet to make that's just a little bit more avant-garde, and I am really looking forward to it. I'm not going to tell you any more about it, but I think it's going to be a lot of fun. And I am loving this. I kind of hate that I promised it to my sister, but I can make another one. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this. If you did, please let me know. Please comment on the Facebook page and send in pictures of what you make. That's at facebook.com slash DeKalb library. The library sponsors all of these things. Again, that's facebook.com slash DeKalb library, spelled DeKalb library, or you can leave comments on the YouTube page, which is youtube.com slash DeKalb library, or you can send comments and pictures to my designated email for this, which is jewelrygen20@gmail.com. That's JEWELRYGIN20@gmail.com. Please let me know what you think or what you thought. I really like to hear from you and to see what I need to do better, or what you liked, what you didn't like, what you might like to see in the future. I want to hear it all. So please get in touch with me. I love to hear from you. Until next time, have a great week. Have a good weekend, and we